Well, the federal opposition leader, Peter Dutton, is live with us in the studio. Peter Dutton, thank you so much for your time.
Great to be with you. Thank you very much.
There's a lot of pollies kicking about beef. I'm told it's about 80 state and federal MPs. And there's a lot with all hat, no cattle. But for you, it's a bit of the opposite, isn't it?
Well, I've got...
No hat, a few cattle?
I did leave my Cooper at home, actually, so I was just eyeing a new one off before, but I'll go and have a look there if I get some time. But we've got a very small herd at home, so...
what are we talking?
We run some Santa Gertrudas, and I think we've just tipped about 62 heads. So it's a great switch off from, being out in the public every day, go home, throw a pair of shorts on, and do some of the jobs. So I've got two boys, one of whom's working in the ag sector at the moment, the other who's just finished first year ag business at uni, and they've had that interest for a long time. So it's a great project to be able to do together, and we're very lucky, given the amount of time I spent on the road, to have a great next door neighbour who keeps an eye on things and actually knows what it is, what needs to be done. And but my mum grew up on a dairy farm, and I used to go fairly regularly. It's my uncle's beef property, so I think it's either in the blood or it's not, and I enjoy it very much.
Did you get a chance to look at the Santas getting judged today?
I didn't. No, I saw the Brahmins yesterday, which was a great opportunity.
You were sashing too, weren't you?
I did, and they were a bit flighty to start with. So
I was going to say, what's the key to sashing?
Well, it's always the judgment about whether, flashing the ribbon, particularly if it's not first prize, before the heifer's eyes, whether that really, sends her crazy.
Red rag
She's
to a
not
heifer.
happy with second or third prize, so maybe she, reacts violently to that. But generally, you've got to make the decision of, are you putting the sash over, or are you just handing it to the handler? And generally, it's the latter, because yesterday they were, particularly some of the younger handlers, a couple of the heifers there in particular were a bit flighty. So, but that's fine. That was good.
Well, from the big beasts to some of the big issues, a lot of talk at the grounds at the moment has been around Glencore's carbon capture and storage project, Surat Basin. David Littleproud, Nationals leader, did a spectacular backflip here on Beef TV yesterday, saying that Coalition got it wrong. We shouldn't have backed it in.
Well, I had a good chat with AgForce yesterday, and obviously we do a lot with them, now with Cattle Australia as well, who's a great organisation, but also with the NFF and others. There's a Senate inquiry that's underway at the moment, and obviously there's a lot of feeling around, because people want to make sure that their water supply and their potential water supply is secure, and that's a perfectly reasonable argument to have. So I think it's an argument around where carbon capture and storage should be, and there are options available, and I think we'll wait to see what is said.
Where should it be?
Well, I think we'll wait to see what the inquiry has to say, and then we'll make a judgment from there.
Why did it take so long?
I think there are competing interests here, and people who feel very passionately about the issue. And I think there are experts, as you'll always find, particularly in legal battles, who can argue one side, one brief, and the other side can argue the other brief. And I think once you distill down to the facts, you can make a judgment at that point. And so there's still, that debate that's ongoing. At the moment, there's obviously a court case as well, and it'll be interesting to see the findings of the judge in relation to that matter as well.
So you're quite happy to say the Coalition got it wrong?
Well, I'm happy to see what the Senate inquiry says and what the court case comes down with, and we'll continue to work with the.
So you're on the same page as Littleproud, because he was.
We're always on the same page, and obviously the Senate inquiry has Coalition representation, so that'll continue.
I did find it interesting that it was only 2 days ago Gina Rinehart came out saying that she didn't want the project there. Is it a matter that farmers couldn't persuade the Coalition, but Gina could?
I think it's a matter of just looking at the situation, which is a complex one, and deciding what to do. I mean, you look at the...
So that didn't have any bearing on the change of heart?
I must say I didn't see Gina's comments at all, so I don't think so. But it's, there are plenty of issues in ag at the moment where there is a very big divide, potentially between different stakeholders, between different landholders, between different types of production, between the city and the country. When you look at the renewable energy space per se, I mean, there's a hot debate in relation to turbines and the rest at the moment, and you will get a diversity of views, and ultimately we've got to decide what's in the best interest of the country.
Now let's turn to the biosecurity levy. I know you guys don't want it. What hope do you have of getting it blocked when it goes through the Senate?
Well, it will depend on what the Greens do, because the government, along with the Greens, can drive anything through the Senate that they want. And I know that Murray Watt's out there talking out of, frankly, both sides of his mouth to the industry at the moment as to what they will do. Our basic argument is that Australian producers, exporters shouldn't be footing the bill for those people who are importing product into our market. And in any other comparable market, the producer and the importer sending the product into our country would be levied for a cost that should fairly be picked up by them. So again, it's a debate that's worth having, because as people know, and as certainly we felt as we walked around here, people well and truly understand that there's a big divide between the strong support from the coalition on the one hand and what I think is pretty flaky support from the government and the Greens on the other hand.
Who should be picking up the tab, just to clarify?
Well, I don't believe that it should be Australian farmers, and I think we should be doing everything we can to make sure that we can reduce the costs for Australian farmers. And I think it's very difficult when you've got Australian farmers competing in a marketplace that they're paying the cost of others who are importing a particular product that may well be in competition with their own.
What can we expect in your budget reply?
We'll have more to say in relation to a couple of key issues. Obviously, the government's had two budgets now where the opportunity was for them to put downward pressure on inflation. Instead, the opposite's happened, and we've had 12 interest rate rises. And I think families, not just in regional areas, but right across the country, are feeling the impact of that. I think people are worried about the cost of energy, which continues to go up, and it's going to go up exponentially. And as we know with the energy regulators, you're going to see a situation where there's unreliability in the market. We've had a threefold increase of manufacturing insolvencies over the last 2 years. The Prime Minister promised a reduction of $275 in electricity bills. Has never happened. He's never repeated that figure since being elected. So I think there's, there are a number of areas around housing, etc., that will have, a fair bit to say. And I think the coalition has demonstrated that we're able to walk and chew gum. We're putting pressure on the government. We're united, and we're working our policies up, which we'll announce between now and the election, which is still 12 months away. So you're not going to have everything announced by way of policy on next Thursday night, or Thursday week. But there's obviously going to be a lot in it, and there's always a hot debate in budget week, as you well know.
Hey, I've got a quick quiz for you, but before then,
Righto.
Albo says he'll chuck some beef on the menu when he does get the wedding. We don't know if you've got a bait to it yet.
Well, I said that Bill Shorten and I would be happy to organise the Bucks party because, we both have obviously a very sincere interest in making sure that Albo's okay. And
what did you do for your Bucks party?
It's so long ago. I suspect it involved a lot of alcohol and mates. The barbecue. I'm just trying to think whether we went to Moreton Island, but it was probably a pretty subdued affair by most standards, I'd say.
Well, your marriage has still done pretty well, so it can't have been.
We're married 21 years this year, so it's okay. You've got to choose wisely.
Well, let's start. Playing for cattle stations.
Righto.
It's the special Beef TV pop quiz. The aim of the game is to get 5 out of 5 so you can get well done. As you can see, your side of politics is not doing too well at the moment.
The pressure's on.
The pressure is on.
Jeez,
ready.
What did you have to ask Stephen Miles for him to be medium?
Well, he did add some good things.
Really?
Ferner also sung a song.
Oh, jeez, there's no
Albo
song.
gave the Big Mac song as well. So ready for your questions.
Fire away.
Question 1, Peter Dutton. Representing the main breeds of the area, how many bull statues are there in Rockhampton?
Well, there's one big one that is obvious to everyone as you drive into town. So there'll be many more beyond that, but I would say bull statues, 3 in town.
There are 6 in town and a push for a 7th, the Belmont Red. Barnaby Joyce owns which breed of cattle? Angus, Droughtmaster or Murray Grey?
Just trying to think which part of New South Wales he's in, what he'd be running down there. I would say he's running Angus.
Correct. That's 1. Which member of your shadow ministry owned a stack of butcher shops? Susan Lee, Kevin Hogan, Susan McDonald and Paul Fletcher.
I think Susie McDonald, the super butcher.
Correct,
chain. She
that's
did a great
2.
job.
Which beef product is also known as bush oysters?
I think the I'm not sure if they have to be well cooked or not, but might be the testes.
Correct.
There you go.
And finally, and this could be for 4 points, which would put you on par with the Ag Ministers state and federally. Rockhampton famously has a statue bull in its main street. What item on the animal keeps getting stolen?
I think it's the same answer as I gave you to the previous question.
Which was?
You want me to say it again?
Yeah.
You're after the grab.
Go
You're
on.
after the
Got to
grab.
give me something here.
Okay, well, I think they are pretty impressive testicles that continue to get stolen, and maybe I just don't want us to prompt someone to go out there tonight after having been down at the lawn, you know, bar
Well, maybe
or
when you
something like
take
that,
elbow on
and
his Bucks party, you might end up there.
Well, I'd mentioned that to Bill Shorten. I think that might be our first stop.
Righto, well, if we see them missing, we know who took them.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. That's
So
4
where does
out
that
of
put me
5.
on the 4 out of 5? Okay, well.
4 out of 5. You are medium
Okay.
well. How do you take your steak?
I take it medium, depending on the cut, but generally medium.
Well, you're medium well today.
Good stuff.
Peter Dutton, congratulations. Thank you so much for coming on
My
Beef
pleasure.
TV.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, we are now heading to Mark Harvey Sutton. He's the boss of the Australian Live Exporters Council. We spoke to him a little earlier.